and welcome to Inside This Music Box. I'm Erin and I'm a primary and high school music teacher in Sydney, Australia. Today this video is all about writing reports, the things I've learned from my co-workers, my advice and how I tend to approach writing them. This is mostly directed towards secondary teachers, people who teach one subject area. I honestly know absolutely nothing about what primary school teachers have to do to write reports. I just know it takes 100 years because there's so much they have to do. First and foremost, writing reports sucks. I do not like writing them. It is not fun to write reports. It takes a really long time, and when you're a secondary teacher and you teach heaps of students, it becomes incredibly tedious and time consuming. But reports are a harsh reality of being a teacher, especially in the way we have to write them these days. So I'll start off with my advice and my tips. My biggest tip is to talk to your co-workers so you can get a feel for how the school approaches writing reports. It's so helpful to be able to speak to your more experienced co-workers and ask them how to phrase something if you're not really sure. There might be a type of structure that your school follows in terms of how many sentences you spend talking about particular things. Even if your co-worker is not in your subject area, it still should give you a vague idea of how to approach the topic. My next piece of advice would be to pick 3 students who kind of have like a high, middle, low achievement and write a practice report for each of them, and then give it to a co-worker who can just proofread them and give you any feedback before you go and write a million reports. This feedback from your co-workers on what you've written can be so beneficial and helpful, and they're likely to have really good advice for you. My final piece of advice is to be honest, but don't destroy the kid. Try and find nicer, more gentle ways to give the constructive criticism. For some students, it's a time they dread and they get so worried about, and can cause some students a lot of anxiety about their parents receiving their report. Parents are less likely to be defensive if they see the criticism has been written in a kind way, and then they're more likely to back you up when it comes to any sort of behaviour consequences or discussions you've asked the parents to have with their child. And now on to how I approach writing reports. I've been teaching for 2 years now, so I've had to write reports 4 times, and each time I get better at it and I get more efficient, and I try and find the easiest, quickest way to write these annoying reports. So for my reports, I decided in the most recent reporting season to do a Google form where I could go through and tick lots of different boxes regarding each student. So in each question on the Google form, I had the student's name down the left-hand side and then a bank of words or phrases to choose from in which I would tick if they apply to that student. So for the first question, I had the student's name down the left-hand side and then a list of different positive character traits for me to tick for each student, so I could then pick from them when writing my first sentence of my report. The words I pick from are just here. I tried to use at least 2 of the positive character traits. Ways I might phrase this is, blah blah has a something and something nature / attitude in class, or blah blah is commended on their something and something attitude in class. My next one is improvements for the students, which the list is here. I find this very helpful for the final sentence of the report where I say what they should be doing to improve or to maintain their current level if they're already doing very well. The way I tend to phrase the recommendations or the improvements I'd like to see students make is blah blah would benefit from something, or blah blah is encouraged to something. But as you saw in that list, they are very kind ways to say the improvement. Obviously, I'm not going to say blah blah has a disgusting attitude in class, they never try their best and they're always really rude to me. That's not going to benefit any student, so I would approach it more like blah blah would benefit from practicing positive communication between teachers and peers and maintain a growth mindset in all activities. So that shift in language, I'm still saying the same things, but I'm saying it in the kindest way possible so that the parent's not defensive, the kid doesn't think you're attacking them personally, but you are still getting the point across of what needs to be improved. So after I complete this Google form, I print out all my responses. And so as I'm writing the reports on my computer, I then have the paper list referencing back to the words and descriptors I want to use for the child. When referencing assessment tasks in the report, I often have more than one assignment to make a comment about. and I try and combine them into the one sentence if they are closely related. For instance, if they had a performance and a reflection, I create a comment for each level it might be. So say they got an A for one thing and then a B for another. I've got a sentence that has like the start of the sentence has like an excellent in it, and then the second half of the sentence has a good in it so that they match up. And I have the whole sentence there and I can just fill in the student name and it's done. So I'll have a list for if they got an A in both, a B in both, C in both, D in both, or an A and a B, and then an A and a C, and an A and a D, that whole thing. It takes a little while, but mostly you're just tweaking the descriptor of the mark. So an excellent mark, a satisfactory mark, a good mark, a poor mark. I often follow this up with a comment saying what it demonstrated. So if they had a good mark in something, I'll say they received a good mark in this, which demonstrated their understanding of this, their ability to this, whatever it might be. If they received a poor mark in something, I'd say they're encouraged to do something differently next time. For example, blah blah is encouraged to read marking criteria carefully and seek feedback prior to submission of their assessment. That way, if you're giving a poor mark to a student, you're telling them exactly how they can improve next time in a short, concise way that their parents can understand too. So the assessment comments are usually in like the middle of my report. I alternate between using the student's name and then the gender pronoun. In the first sentence, I'll use blah blah, and then in the second sentence, I'll use his or her or their. It's always good towards the beginning of the report to reference the student's progress. So using words like great progress or steady progress or some progress are good to use towards the beginning of the report to kind of give an overview of how they've developed throughout the terms. This system seems to be working for me, and I hope if you give it a go, it works for you too. Those are all the ideas and suggestions I've got for you, and I hope this is helpful to any new teachers out there who are stuck in the reporting season and don't know what to do, because that was definitely me the first time around. But luckily my co-workers were able to help me out, and I've been able to find way that really works for me. If there are any other teachers out there who have some advice, please pop it in the comment, because I'm sure someone out there will benefit from it. If you enjoyed this video or you found it helpful, please click the like button and subscribe to see more music education related content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.